Welcome to Celebrate Sausage. My name's Greg. My channel is the Gourmet Woodsman. I am really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this, Eric. You birds know I'm trying to do something? Welcome to Celebrate Sausage. My name's Greg. My channel's the Gourmet Woodsman. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this, Eric. I want to celebrate the Great Pacific Northwest by showing you how I made these fermented, cold smoked elk truffle salami snack sticks. Let's do this. This is a piece of elk. Just got to get rid of this silver skin because that's not going to be a very pleasant texture in our snack stick. Just kind of keeping my knife tilted upwards, trying to get just under that skin. That's looking pretty well trimmed to me. So I'm just going to keep cutting these into pieces that'll fit into my grinder. I have a pretty large grinder. Just cut what will fit into yours easily because you don't want to cause friction. What I have here is a piece of rump roast from a Roosevelt elk. The Roosevelt elk is the largest subspecies of elk in North America, and it only lives in the Pacific Northwest, and more specifically, it only lives west of the Cascade Mountain Range. So from Northern California to Southern Alaska, and only west of the Cascade Mountain Range. For me, this celebrates my part of the Pacific Northwest. Now I'm going to cut up my back fat. This back fat comes from Boy Blackie the pig. Boy Blackie is a red wattle, big black mix. I also have some videos using brownie. So I always cut my back fat down a little more than my meat because it's just a little tougher on the grinder. I want to make sure it doesn't smear. Okay, my elk and back fat, 70% elk, 30% back fat, going into the freezer while I get the rest of my stuff together. An Oregon grown truffle. Don't think that's going to be the best way to add truffle. I think one of these truffle salts is going to actually be a better way to add truffle to my snack stick. So to make this a truffle flavor, today I'm using truffle salt. Oregon has a really booming truffle industry. In recent decades, we found that truffles go really well with the hazelnuts, which grow really well here. When I was looking for truffle salt, I found two different truffle salts, and I like this one much better. This has more flavor and a better flavor, in my opinion. This one's really good. I'm not saying it's bad. If this was all I found, I'd be like, man, that's delicious. But when I do the two together, so I'm going to be using this one. So I'm actually going to make two batches because this is experimental. I'm going to do one batch with 50% truffle salt and half kosher salt. And I'm going to make my other batch using only truffle salt because I don't know how much truffle salt is really the right amount. So I'm going to do an experiment. And if you don't have truffle salt, just use 2.5% kosher salt. You'll be golden. Now the rest, everything's exactly the same. So I'm just going to have my two batches. I've got my 100% truffle salt and my 50% kosher, 50% truffle. Since it is a cured sausage, I'm going to use some cure number 1 because it's going to cure very fast, less than a month for sure. So I'm going in with my cure number 1. I'm going to add some dextrose to feed that starter culture that we're about to make up. I'm going to use some white pepper. Use black pepper if you want it a little less heat. White pepper I find to be just a tiny bit spicier. I'm going to add some onion powder. I'm going to add some rosemary. I'm going to add a little bit of thyme. Okay, I'm going to add some juniper, but I'm going to have to grind this up. And I'll do the same thing for my 50-50 batch. We'll make some starter culture and grind some meat. Today I'm going to use Flavor of Italy. It's a pretty fast acidifier. I'm going to take about a quarter teaspoon, add about a quarter cup of water, mix that together, let that dissolve. I like to mix this up 15-20 minutes, maybe a half hour before I use it. Next thing, let's grind up some meat. My meat has been chilling. It's 29 degrees right now, which is maybe a little colder than I meant for it to get, but it'll be fine. This big grinder can handle it. If you have a smaller grinder, you might want to keep it closer to 30 to 32. I think that's how I killed one of my small grinder. So I'm just going to let the grinder do the work. Okay, now I want to send this elk through this twice. I only want to send the fat through it once because I'm hoping to keep the fat a little more defined. So I'm going to run the fat through first. Oh, look at that. That's so beautiful. I love that. That's what happens when you grind it nice and cold. That is this beautiful pork fat from this beautiful animal. Boy Blackie, the red wattle big black mix. Look at this beautifully defined meat and fat. That's why you grind it cold. So I'm just going to go right to the next step, which for me is splitting this up into my 2 batches for the salt, truffle salt and the 50/50 salt. I'll just stick this in the fridge for 5 minutes while I deal with this grinder. See you in a minute. Okay, this is still pretty cold, just over 30 degrees. This is my 100% truffle salt batch. Now, if you don't have truffle salt, or you don't like truffles, my original salami is this recipe with just kosher salt instead of the truffle salt. It's a simple salami, but it's delicious. That said, I haven't made a small diameter snack stick like this, but it's the same recipe I used as a salami, except I'm using cure number 1 for the smaller diameter, and I just think it's going to be delicious. So I'm just going to mush this up. Oh shit! Oh, I'm forgetting right off the bat. All right, just going to mix these up. It's actually coming together pretty quickly. It's been a while since I worked with elk, but it is a little bit not quite as tight as the beef. Oh yeah, and this fat is going to be totally very defined in this. This is going to be delicious. I'm pretty excited about this, I gotta say. All right, we're looking pretty good. It's lifting that whole bowl up, sticking to my hand really well. You can get a look here. You can see how it gets strands that reach out, gets a little, I always say it looks a little furry. That's how I think of it. You see it looks furry. It's definitely sticking really well. I'm calling that good. I think that's going to be awesome. When you look at that compared to that. I'm going to stick this in the fridge real quick. And then this is the same exact thing, except that I'm using my 50% kosher salt, 50% truffle salt. And I'm going to add my starter culture. I'm just going to mix that up, same as I did with the other batch. Comes together pretty quickly, really. Starting to get a little sticky. Starting to look a little furry. Starting to lift my bowl up. So we're almost there. I'm not sure if I really divided the fat as evenly as I could have. To me, this one's just looking a little more fatty. Alright, I think we're there. And I guess I can make it a tiny bit more sticky, but not much. It's pretty much starting to want to pull my gloves off, so. And again, starting to get those strands look a little furry. This does look like I didn't split these 2 batches up as good as I could with the fat, but I think it'll be just fine. Back to the fridge while I get my stuffer ready. I'm going to be using 24 sheep casings for these snack sticks. And I gotta be honest with you, I find these very challenging to work with. It can be hard to even find the beginning sometimes. It's not a matter of finding the beginning, it's a matter of opening the beginning. And we'll try to get it under the water, get a little water in it. This is the really tough part with these sheep casings. Gotta load them on here. Alright, that wasn't too bad. I'm gonna keep this wet because I want these to keep sliding back and forth very easily. I'm not gonna make you watch while I load all these because it takes a lot of sheep casings to make a little bit of sausage. It's actually been going easier than I thought. So what I try to do is find the opening, try to let a little water in there. And that helps lubricate the horn as it goes on. And I usually just start on one side, wrap it around, and there it is. And these have actually been going on quite a bit easier than I thought they would. They're nice and pliable. I got them going last night, and it's now the next afternoon, so they've had plenty of time. I added a little bit of baking soda to help alkalize the water, which helps soften them. And we are just about ready to go. Pull this off a little ways, make a little knot, poke a hole at the end, and then off we go. Let's see, it looks like about 3. That's how I'm going to do this. Like, I'll leave it up and keep going. Oh, keep on going. Alright, that's it for this batch. I'm ready to keep on stuffing. Make sure that this stays nice and slippery. Dry my table up a tiny bit. I'm stuffing these 50-50 ones. Those are a little too long, huh? Let's see, what if I go like this? Those are kind of too short. Well, I guess they're the same size as that one. I guess that'll be what I'll do. Got my piece split left in the hopper, and I'm just gonna wrap it up. And that's the one I'll use to test my pH. And I'm just gonna go around with my pricker and make sure these all have a few holes in them, especially if I see any air pockets, like this one. 100% truffle salt here, my 50-50 truffle kosher salt here, and here's my test piece. So this should keep the humidity a good 90%, or even probably closer to 100. And try to keep this around 85, 90 degrees. Flavor of Italy does like it a little warm. Strangely enough, the Flavor of Italy starter doesn't say anywhere on here what organisms are in there, but it also doesn't say what temperature it likes to be at, what temperature and humidity. I happen to know that it likes to be around 85 or 90, even 95, because I have fermented in my oven with the light on, which is between 90 and 95 degrees, basically. And it does its thing quite fast at those temperatures. So I keep mine in these bags. They have the little thing for your seal meal, sucks the air out, but yet you can open it because it's like a Ziploc. So that's how I keep mine. Well, let's see, it's been about 14 hours. See, it's definitely changed some color. It's definitely firmed up quite a bit. All right, it's looking pretty good. You see that? I'm right at about 5, just over 5. I think that's where I want to go to. I think I'm going to start smoking these. Before I start cold smoking these and drying them, I'm going to weigh them. And rather than weigh them individually, I'm just going to weigh them all. Figure they're all going to lose weight at about the same amount of time. I'll just jot down this weight and the target weight and start cold smoking. So I've got these snack sticks hanging in my older smoker, the one that the bear knocked over. You can see it messed up my thermometer, which doesn't matter for this cold smoking. I've got a smoke generator just with the tube shoved through the intake. It's just an aquarium pump, pushes air through it. It's enough air to keep it going. And as you can see, it does make some smoke in here. But the other thing the bear did, tweaked my door and it just won't close all the way. So I think I'll put a ratchet strap on that. Here's my temporary solution. Gets it most of the way closed. And it'll work for cold smoking, but it's sure not going to work as a smoker anymore. All right, this is my drying chamber. Let's see what they look like. It's been 22 days since I put these in here, and it's 55 degrees and about 80% humidity in here. And these have lost 39% of their weight, so let's go taste them. All right, let's see what they look like inside. We've got our 100% truffle, 50% truffle. Looking at it, I might have used a finer plate next time for the fat, or grind it twice. I wanted it to be really defined. I like that in my big sausage, or my big salami, but yeah, I'm not sure in here. Let's see, 50% truffle salt or all truffle salt? I guess I should start with the 50. Well, I'll say I'm a little torn because I know that that big fat right next to that casing is a danger of having the casing not adhere well. But the creaminess when you get a big piece of fat. All right, now let's try the 100% truffle salt. Oh, if you like truffles, definitely to just replace all the salt with truffle salt. I think a smaller die for your fat would keep it away from the casing more. Less risk of the casing not binding. But with those big pieces of fat, they're so creamy. I don't know that all the truffle flavor goes to the fat, but definitely the fat absorbs the truffle flavor. Most truffle recipes are with cream or with cheese or with something fatty. And oh man, when you get those big pieces of fat that just melt in their truffly goodness, really good. I definitely think replacing all the salt, truffle salt, is the way to go. Just make sure your truffle salt is nothing but salt and truffle. And if you don't like truffle, this is actually a good recipe without it. I've made it before with just kosher salt. Still a delicious snack stick. I honestly didn't think of adding truffle until Eric invited me to be on Celebrate Sausage. And I knew I wanted to celebrate the Pacific Northwest, and elk and truffle, not much better way to do that. Thanks again, Eric, for inviting me to be a part of this. You inspired the truffle edition, and it is a good one. Check out my channel at Gourmet Woodsman. I've got a couple other versions of these snack sticks, smoked, cooked different ways, as well as many other projects. Put some love into your food. Peace.